the cloud. Good morning, Canada. Good afternoon, Brazil. Boa tarde. Can we share the screen, Alma, please? I will screen share the Portuguese version of my brief introduction. Welcome everyone to the event entitled Lacan Salon in Conversation with Corpo Freudiano. My name is Hilda Fernandez. I'm a founder member, co-president, and clinical director of the Lacan Salon. It is my great pleasure to welcome each of you and also the esteemed colleagues from Corpo Freudiano, all of them, but particularly our speakers today, Marco Antonio Coutinho, who will talk on the structure and history of Corpo Freudiano, and Maria Fernanda Bumlai, who will talk on the structure of the formation in the school. I will introduce them in a couple of minutes. As you might know, the Lacan Salon is the first English-speaking group in Canada dedicated to the study of Lacanian psychoanalysis in Vancouver, Canada. Vancouver, Canada is situated on the west coast of Canada and on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh Nations. Our Brazilian colleagues might understand the fact that being part of the vast Americas who share the experience of colonization. The Lacan Salon has gone through a lot of intellectual and creative adventures throughout the 16 years of its life, among friends and colleagues, guided by the leading desire of the committed participants and board members who have been part of the Salon throughout the years. Recently, we have started to explore the possibility of becoming a school of psychoanalysis to respond to the need for rigorous formation on Lacanian psychoanalysis in this region and to alleviate the increasing demand for analysis of this school of thought in this city. Considering the possibilities, of course, available to us under government regulation. We are engaging in some conversations with Corpo Freudiano, which is a psychoanalytic school founded in 1994 in Rio de Janeiro, and that currently counts about 700 members within various regions of Brazil, the US, and France, and which center its efforts on reading the work of Jacques Lacan in constant dialogue with Sigmund Freud's work. At the Lacan Salon, we believe that studying the work of Jacques Lacan should include a rigorous analysis of the body of work by Sigmund Freud, as it provides the basis in which Lacan developed his theories and also offers the analyst a solid ground, a robust framework to develop theoretical notions and the direction of the treatment. I have been waiting patiently but actively for 16 years since I convoked the Lacan Salon on September 18, 2007, for the opportunity to promote training or formation for emerging clinicians in the Freudio-Lacanian psychoanalysis. I have worked in public health, hospitals, and private practice for more than 20 years here in Canada. Since the beginning of my practice, I have the privilege and challenge of receiving a number of transferences that more recently have been increasing. People should not wait for months or years to access Lacanian psychoanalysis. The response to the demand should include an organized collective response. It is clear to me that a community must be organized to help aspiring analysts find an intellectual community of support. As Lacan stated, the psychoanalytic school should act as a protection against the alienating dominant discourses. The school as a refuge, the school as a form of social bonding. I propose to the Lacan Salon board and to you all to host these talks with Corpo Freudiano because we need to create a clinical mechanism that secures possibilities of rigorous training for people who want to practice this liberating mode of response to suffering beyond the dominant biomedical, psychoeducational, or neurological pathologizing causalities. I met with Marco Antonio Coutinho, my good friend, in Ghent, in the Ghent University in 2015. And few years after, I started attending events organized or co-organized by Corpo Freudiano. What has impacted me of Corpo Freudiano, unlike other psychoanalytic schools, is that Corpo Freudiano do not impart their constituency with a line of how and what to think about the clinic. They do not teach what should be thought, the specific conceptual frame on the parameters of dogma, but instead, Corpo Freudiano provides a space to think singularity, to create symbolic textures within the collectivity. And they do so by sustaining a humble and joyful approach that allows for a warmth and a warm social bonding that permits radical singularity without losing the necessary psychoanalytic rigor. Today is the first of 4 sessions. On May the 18th, we are going to have Ana Lucia Carvalho on the constitution and structure of Corpo Freudiano of João Pessoa, Denise Maurano on the ethics of psychoanalysis and the importance of its regulation. In June 8th, we would have Sonia Leite. She's from Rio de Janeiro. Denise is from Rio de Janeiro también, as well. Sonia is going to be talking about what is the purpose of the cartel in the school. And Marcos Cansado, which is from the US, he's going to be talking about analytic space in Freud and Lacan. On June the 15th, we are going to listen to Laeria Fontenella, who is with us today, and she's going to be talking about the place of the institution and its model for the analytic foundation. And Paolo Lolo, who is also with us today, he's going to be talking on June the 15th, School Free Association Laboratory of the Artists. Following Lacan, I think of these conversations as part of a logical time. These first conversations might constitute Lacan's instance of the glance, which is a fulguration of time, a moment of an instantaneous acknowledgement of evidence. Hopefully, we simultaneously reach the time for comprehending, which corresponds to moments of doubt, meditation, intuition, and the creation of causal hypotheses. I trust that we will reach the moment to conclude, which refers to the assertion that ends in an action that moves towards an act, even if the consequences cannot be known beforehand. This will hopefully give birth to a school and an associated clinic. But according to Lacan, 2 conditions are required for the conclusion, for any conclusion. The first condition refers to the fact that the subject and the collectivity must act by overcoming infinite doubts, trusting in the verifications that they could afford to emerge as a new form of collectivity, retroactively signifying the previous 2 temporalities, perhaps incorrectly, perhaps correctly. And the second condition of the logical time to conclude refers to the fact that in their acts, the subject and its collectivity never acts ex nihilo, from nothing, because even if the acts and the consequences are carried out by subjects alone and the collectivities in their singularity, no one gets, I'm quoting Lacan, there but by means of the others, unquote. I am currently in a mix of clear desire, excitement, and unmoored expectations about what will transpire from this encounter. Will the transmission of psychoanalysis be possible despite the language differences? Will the cultural difference between North and South allow for singularity but add to plurality in the transmission of psychoanalysis? Will working transferences emerge between these 2 regions of the vast Americas? We will find out. Without further ado, let me introduce our speakers for today. They will be speaking for about 15-20 minutes, and then they will gather, we will gather a round of questions at the end of their speaking. What I am gonna ask is that to facilitate the communication, we write the questions on the chat so the speakers can read the question more directly, and that way is easier to understand the questions and communicate. Okay, so Dr. Marco Antonio Coutinho is a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst professor at the University of the State of Rio de Janeiro. He's the founder and director of Corpo Freudiano, a School of Psychoanalysis, Section Rio de Janeiro, and is the author of more than 10 books on the fundamentals of theory and clinical practice of psychoanalysis, the formation of analysts, and the connection between art and psychoanalysis. Maria Fernanda Bumlai has a psychology background and practices psychoanalysis in the clinic with adults. She's the founder and current vice director of the Corpo Freudiano, Section Cuiabá, Mato Grosso, Brazil. Welcome, bem-vindos. Marco, por favor.
Well, it's a great pleasure for me to be today with you, and I thank a lot Hilda and Lacan Salon for this invitation. And I think, as Hilda said, we have a great moment today of changing experiences and talking about something that is very precious to us, the School of Psychoanalysis. The existence of psychoanalysis depends upon the formation of the analysts. So each analyst has a great responsibility about the question of formation. We are talking about formation, and I know that in English, regularly we talk about training, isn't it? But we are using formation, isn't it, Hilda?
Yes.
It's a different way of approaching the question. Well, excuse me, my English, it's not at all very fluid. So I asked Alma and Hilda and Desiree, if they don't understand something, please tell me that it was not comprehensible what I talk, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. My encounter with Hilda was very important. We met in Ghent. She said we met after in Oaxaca, in the Congress of the American Network of Psychoanalysis. And after in Brazil, many encounters. Corpo Freudiano likes Hilda a lot. We have a great work transference with Hilda. And now we hope we can have also a great work transference with Lacan Salon as the older group. You know that Corpo Freudiano began in Rio de Janeiro in 1994. We are going to complete 30 years in August in Rio. After that, we had many other sections that have been founded all over Brazil and also in Paris and in the United States. It's important to say, and Hilda in her introduction told us something about that. It's important to say that our style of work is something that we are always giving much attention. I mean that it's important to pay attention to the fact that in psychoanalysis we are always related to transfer, or analytical transfer, or work transfer. There are two points that are always organizing our groups, our relations with among analysts. And you know that after Rio has been founded, other groups began to be founded by exactly by that relation of transfer between the analysts in Brazil and also in Paris in the United States. You know that we must pay attention to the fact that each section is independent. Okay, Corpo Freudiano is not an international society that has a center of direction. Each section has its own structure, and each section obeys the history and the tradition of the city which is existing. Okay, that's very important to us, because you know our school in Rio has now a structure that has been defined in the actual structure recently, but it's a work of a very hard and long elaboration that is always submitted to the experience. We are always thinking with Lacan that we must operate during the functioning, okay? Functioning and analyzing and elaborating the response, the answers we can give to some questions that arrives each day in the School of Psychoanalysis, isn't it? So that's our way of existing. But also, we very early in the beginning of Corpo Freudiano, we understood that we couldn't adopt the school that Lacan created in Paris in the 60s as a model, an absolute model to us in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. We saw very quickly that we should think the contributions of Lacan, very essential and very important, because Lacan introduced in the institution of psychoanalysis, we could resume what he did by saying that what he did was to introduce psychoanalysis in the formation of the analysts, and making in a way that not the universitary discourse of or the master discourse that will prevail in the school. Okay, but we saw that the model of institution of Lacan, and we must remember also that he dissolved his school, isn't it? He was very unsatisfied with his school, the destinies of his school. Okay, so in Brazil, in Rio, I, with my colleagues, my friends, that were analysts that came from many institutional experiences, different experience, also very unsatisfactory experience, you say, you know, and we began to think about what we could do and what we wanted to do. So to try to do, that's really something very ambitious, I think, because the question was to create a new space where, and Hilda talked about the space, isn't it? A new space where we could think and make psychoanalysis advance. So the structure that I will present to you today very quickly, it's recent, and it was the product of many changings. I can tell you, for instance, one great changing that happened to Corpo Freudiano to arrive to the actual structure. In the beginning, you know, we had not yet understood that we could not adopt the Lacanian model tel quel. In the beginning, we had the experience of seminaries, okay? So when someone came to the school, I was studying a seminar of Lacan, another analyst was studying another seminar. So the study, the research was made by the experience of each one, as the Lacanian, the Corpo Freudiano de Paris. Many researches happening all the time, and each one responsible for this teaching, isn't it? But we understood very quickly that people were not still prepared to para seguir to
keep, para seguir, to keep, yeah, to keep,
yes,
to continue, yeah.
The kind of teaching we were making, you know,
to follow.
So we create a course that we named a basic theoretical course, you know, that was a kind of door of entrance to people that could function as an approach of Freudian theory and Lacanian teaching. And that was really very important to us, because that changed our structure. And we saw very clearly that it was not possible to reproduce tel quel the institution of Lacan, and we should reinvent other structures to us that were proper to it. And that made a very important changing of our existence, because, you know, since then, it was in the year 2000, more or less, we have been working with two different sections inside the structure of Rio, you know, and now it has been very well defined. The structure of theoretical basic formation that can be frequented by anyone who wants to study psychoanalysis. So, you know, as the school of Lacan didn't close the doors of Corpo Freudiano de Paris only to analysts, you know that, philosophers and literary students and so many disciplines that were interested in studying and knowing the knowledge of the psychoanalysis knowledge, Freud and Lacan, you know. So that's a space of our actual structure, you know. And there is another.
Marco, shall we put the fluxogram
Yes,
Shall we
that's
share?
fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you can see that's our actual structure. You can see people can get into the school as an associate up there, and into basic formation, or into permanent formation. That's what we call theoretical formation. But we made a very difference between theoretical formation and psychoanalytical formation. People who want to get into analytical formation, they have to present already some kind of knowledge of psychoanalysis, some kind of approaching of Freudian thinking, That's why we have the 7 points that we demand from people who want to get into psychoanalytical formation. I think that Fernanda will talk about that more specifically, isn't it, Fernanda? But I just presented you as it is now, because we can see in that structure many elements of Lacan school. We have adopted, I should say, some elements of Lacan school, but we have elaborated our way of facing and using that element. For instance, the cartel, you have cartel that goes all over the school. All the school is invited, I should say, invited to study in cartels. That's that we recognize the importance of cartel as a place of studying and researching psychoanalytic theory into a special kind of group. As you know, of course, Lacan Salon knows that the structure of cartel, special structure of studying with tonality, we could say, a tonality, analytical kind of approaching theory in small groups. You know that the tradition of groups that study psychoanalysis has not been invented by Lacan. There is a tradition in psychoanalysis of groups, little groups that study some theme, some question, clinical question, as the Chris study group of New York, for instance. But cartel is a special notion of the group that Lacan proposed to his school, and that we think it's very healthy, I can say, to the school. And well, the analyst information, he has many activities that he can keep, isn't it? And there also we have invented some kind of dispositives, and especially if I could take one of it to talk to you, the dispositive of clinical case. Okay, that's an invention that we have made many years ago, but now it's being more specified and more concrete for the experience of people in Rio de Janeiro. What is the clinical case, the dispositive of clinical case? The idea began by the fact that we always observed in the groups that talk about clinic group supervision, clinical supervision made in groups. We have always observed that they are very, very quickly transformed into some kind of psychological dialogue, that where everyone gives his opinion about a case, everyone says something, and we think that that's nothing to have with psychoanalysis. A kind of conversation and exposing something so difficult, that is to talk about a clinical case, submitted at the end to a psychological dialogue. With many opinions, many thinking, etc. No, we thought we should reinvent that dispositive, and we created the dispositive of clinical case, where 5 analysts' information, they have supervision. Each one of an analyst that he chooses. Each one chooses the analyst that he wants to receive supervision. And the supervision is made in a very specific way. The analyst information talks about the case he wants to talk, but the group doesn't say anything. The group just observes, just hear, They don't talk. Why? Why that idea? We think that supervision is a kind of analytical experience also. That's why French analysts call supervision as a second analysis, analyse seconde, because it's an analytical experience. What's the specific in the analytical experience? It's the transfer, okay? So in this dispositive, what we want is to give the most important value to the transfer. The transfer that begins in the patient, comes to the analyst that is information, that is talking about his case, and goes to the supervisor. There's a vector. There is an unconscious vector that that is born. Born in the patient, comes to the analyst, and is directed to the supervisor. Okay, so the idea of this group is that we must pay attention to this vector of transferring. And the supervisor, that's the experience of supervision, individual supervision, isn't it? The supervisor must give back what he heard about this transfer vector to the analyst. So it has been a very nice experience here in Rio. Many groups of dispositive of clinical cases has been working. In the beginning of the year, 5 are united in a group, and each month one presents to the supervisor he wants. At the end of the semester, the group is dissolved, and another group may be created to re-begin the experience. So I think that the dispositive of clinical case is a way of interpretate the direction that Lacan gave to us to introduce the more possible ways psychoanalysis in the formation of the analyst. Another very important space in the analyst information section is the is the clinical theoretical teaching. You can see here in the à esquerda. Clinical theoretical teaching, it's a teaching specific to the analyst information, you know? Specific, why specific? Because we are going to talk about psychiatry, psychopathology, classic psychopathology, because you know that we, Lacanian analysts, are the ones who sustain the tradition of psychiatry nowadays, isn't it? Because psychiatry today has been isolated from the traditional knowledge of psychiatry. And we know that Freud, he inherited all the knowledge of clinical classic psychiatry. And so we have teaching about psychopathology, structural psychopathology, of course, Lacanian psychopathology, and clinical structures, you know. That's a kind of teaching very specific, that's once every week, to the people that are in formation, okay? But in basic formation, up, the teaching is more theoretical. Even if we talk about clinic, it's not possible to talk about psychoanalysis, not talking about clinic, isn't it? But the emphasis is not the clinic, okay? Because not everyone there, not every associate is inside the clinical experience. You know that 2 years ago we had a meeting in Rio about the question of the formation, because in Corpo Freudiano, every year we have a meeting of all the sections just about the topic of formation, okay? To rethink, to re-elaborate, to question each section, what's going on, what's the problem, what are the solutions, what are the questions, etc. And you know that 2 years ago in a meeting we had in Rio, I found a text of Freud in the question of lay analysis, you know, the foreword, the afterwards of the question of lay analysis, that seemed to me and to the group of Rio very, very attractive, because he says something like that. I'm quoting. I had put in the foreground the statement that it matters little whether the analyst has a medical degree. It matters more whether he has acquired a specialized training that is necessary to carry out the analysis. To this statement, we were able to link the question, which was so eagerly discussed by colleagues, about what would be the most appropriate training for the analyst. That notion of the most appropriate training, it seemed to us very healthy, you know, because we have limits of the knowledge about what is the formation of the analyst, you know. We don't know exactly what is the formation of an analyst. That's why Lacan introduced the idea of the path. The path was the invitation that Lacan made to invite the analysts to talk about how was the experience they had in their own analysis when they became analysts. But the experience of the path was considered by Lacan as not very useful, even a failure, as he told. And we continue in psychoanalysis with the question of enigmatic question about what is the formation of an analyst. So that's why we consider all our elaboration transitory. We are always thinking and rethinking because we don't have an answer about what is the formation. I could stop just saying something about the free pass. The free pass here at the corner left, free pass, passe livre in Portuguese. What's the free pass? The free pass was an idea we had following the teaching of Alain de Gevaille, that was something very important to Corpo Freudiano in Rio de Janeiro. We made contact with Alain de Gevaille very early in the 80s, and he was present in Rio. Even in the 90s, when the Corpo was founded, he came here to give seminars and lessons, and he was a wonderful person, and we could exchange with him many experiences and many questions, and then Alain de Gevaille, he gave some conference and he wrote some texts about the re-questioning the idea of the past as Lacan established it. Okay, and from the ideas of Alain de Gevaille, we created in Rio that notion of the free path. What is the free path? The free path is the path that doesn't produce any nomination. It's not interesting to the school to connect nomination with the past. The past is an experience, a discourse experience that may be sustained by any analyst that wants to talk about his experience, okay? And we don't have a jury to say yes or no to that experience. We don't have the passador. How we say passador in English? Passador.
Passeur. I don't think that there's a name in English. Passeur, no? Juan Luis?
The passeur. Okay.
Yeah, it's normally not translated. You say passeur.
Passeur.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Passeur, okay. So we have the passante, we have the passeur, and we have the jury. Our idea is to eliminate the idea that there are passeurs nominated by the school. Why? Because anyone can be a passeur. And no jury can evaluate this specifically. So we have a free path in continuing the experience of free association. That's our idea, And the question of transmission of psychoanalysis. The question of transmission is in the center of the question of the past, isn't it, for Lacan? And I had, and Denise Maurano, we had some experiences in Paris about the question of the past. We worked in cartels with some members of the past cartel in the Corpo Freudiano de Paris, and we heard from them something very impressive. They told us, you don't have to adopt this mechanism. It was very destructive. If you want to destruct your school, you must adopt the past mechanism, how Lacan created it. So, but we think that the question of the past is very important, and we must sustain it in other inventions, not with that dispositive. What I should underline from all I told you is that Corpo Freudiano is a school that is in profound relation of the Freud work, in profound relation with Lacan's teaching. but we want to think all of this. We don't want to adopt in a way that we don't elaborate our experience from all the teaching that we had from Freud and from Lacan. That I can stop here. Okay, Hilda?
Sounds perfect, Marco. Thank you so much. Lots of things to think about. And without further ado, let's move into Maria Fernanda Bumlai's talk. And then at the end, we are going to have some discussion. As I proposed before, you can start putting your questions in the chat. That would be easier for communication. So, Maria Fernanda, adelante.
Hello. Dear Hilda and your colleagues, I'd like to thank you for this invitation for presenting in this seminar. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'd also like to apologize in advance for any mistakes I might have, because English is not my first language. Enjoy this little presentation. We are a section of Corpo Freudiano Psychoanalysis School in Cuiabá, located in the central west of Brazil. The people who take part of the school directory had been, for many years, university professors and in the courses of psychology, and they knew all the difficulties related to the studies of psychoanalysis and the formation of an analyst. Therefore, Marcia Smolka started an approach with Corpo Freudiano, and Marco Antonio Coutinho Jorge was our interlocutor. At some meetings, we are accepted to open a Corpo Freudiano school in our state, and our chain was founded in November 2011. In that time, we organized the host into director, vice director, educational director, finance director, and secretary. For admission to school, the candidate must send a letter of intent which contains his academic and professional journey, why this person wishes to study psychoanalysis and why in this school. There are some people who are not from the psycho area that wish to study in our Corpo Freudiano school and don't want to be.
Yeah, Maria Fernanda, the connection is a little bit slow. We are going to share the text as well, so we kind of follow. Is that okay? Alma, could we please share the text by Maria Fernanda on the screen, please? Thank you. Maria Fernanda, ¿cómo va?
I think she's gone.
No, it's here. Yeah, Maria Fernanda.
I think.
Yeah, there's a connection issue. Oh, she gone? She's probably getting out and in. But she was talking about a little bit further. She was talking a little bit for admission to school, the candidate must send. Alma, a little bit.
Intent.
Yeah. Alma, could we move it a little bit? Thank you. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, around there.
Shall we wait a little bit? If not, well, we can read it for her. Yeah, she was kind of present the whole time, and all of a sudden this happened. Okay, let's see. I don't see her yet. Shall we just read it, maybe? And then
hello, I'm here.
Maria Fernanda, bienvenida otra vez.
Thank you. A kind of mystery. Let's see. For admission, I think I was here. For admission, no.
For admission to
Yes,
school?
after that, interviews.
Maybe if
Are
Maria Fernanda,
made with the candidate, always with two members. Oi,
Maria
Yeah.
Fernanda,
hello. What happened?
maybe if
without
you turn off,
the image, yeah.
if you turn off your camera, maybe
Maybe
your
it-
signal will improve.
Maybe. Yeah, sometimes that takes a lot of sort of
Bandwidth.
yeah. So maybe if we just if
Fernanda,
you
está me
just
ouvindo? Fernanda, está me ouvindo?
Tô.
Tá, quando você fala virando o rosto, está cortando. É
Sim.
importante você falar só voltada para o microfone, tá?
That
Tá.
isso aí.
Ok.
Isso aí.
After that, let's see. Let's try again. After that, interviews are made with the candidate, always with two members from the school, two members together. These interviews are very important because we can assess if that candidate has the essential condition to be a student in here. So the candidate must be accepted to begin the studies in our school. We often face important challenges related to the true commitment to the deep theoretical studies, personal analysis, and to the analyst formation itself. We believe that the difficulties faced reflect much our society nowadays, and the psychoanalysis is not protected by the whole superficiality and the hurry which we live today. The basic formation is compulsory at school, and the original models were followed, such as unconscious and drive, Oedipo and castration, transfer and repetition, clinical extruder, real, symbolic, and imaginary. The first four models are focused on Freud's theory and the last one in Lacan's theory. Nowadays, we've made some adaptation. The zero model, the formation of the analyst was introduced according to the general director of the school. We could notice the difficulties in understanding and take responsibilities in the studies and the seriousness that the formation requires. This is the reason why this specific model was created. We've organized the model clinical extruders into three parts: neurosis, psychosis, and perversion, so that we turned our basic formation longer in our section. At the end of each module, a journey to present theoretic, I can't ever say this word, sorry.
Yeah, theoretical,
is done.
theoretical project.
I can't, it's impossible for me.
I know.
Sorry. After finish the basic formation, if the student wishes to continue his or her student to become an analyst, he or she must attend to the permanent formation, which is compulsory. We understand that the analyst formation is always permanent, though for this stage, another interview must be done. At this moment, seminaries will be about Lacan's theory. We can think about this word, compulsory. I think it's a very strong word, but I want to say that the students have to pass for this part. Can you understand?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a
Okay.
must. Yeah.
Okay. All other important authors are always studied with the intention to bring important for us to keep the theoretical and ethical rigor that information on the Clint. It's a place where we prioritize the discussion. Oh, pardon me.
Yeah. No, it's just that it is cutting.
We lost you for a bit.
Can we go back to other important authors are also studied with the intention to bring other theoretical reflections? After that?
Yes, because I put it now. It's very important. There is not in my text. I'm talking. Very important for us. It's very important for us to keep the theoretical and ethical rigor that the psychoanalysis requires. From the permanent formation on, the clinical secretary is introduced, and it's a place where we prioritize the discussions about the psychoanalytical clinic. As a future project to Cuiabá to be developed, we will soon have a clinical supervision, which will be a place where the supervision will be attended by participants. Marco Antonio told about this. The school also offers other activities which are open for everyone, having in mind the psychoanalysis articulation with other knowledge fields, such as Cine Corpo. Here, films are presented and discussed theoretically. Literature, arts, and psychoanalysis, books, and work of arts are brought to classes to be discussed. Cartel, Sonia Leite, the person who is in charge of this area at school, will be presenting about Cartel for you in another day. We have members from school who are already from the permanent formation in charge of developing these projects for these activities. We held the annual Congress of School in 2018 with the following topic: love, desire, and enjoyment, from the clinic to the politics. From this moment on, the school in Cuiabá became a section. Finally, I would like to highlight that a characteristic of the school is the constant exchange of ideas between chains and sections. We invite colleagues to hold seminaries, and this collective nature enriches the formation of all of us. I'd like to thank you for our attention. It was a really pleasure to share this precious time with you. Now it's your turn, Hilda. It's up to you.
Thank you so much, Maria Fernanda. Very, very clear, punctual. And so now let's open the discussion for like an exchange of ideas, any impressions, any questions that you might have. We can put them in the chat, or you can open Desiree Young, who is kind of part of the Lacan Salon. She is going to help us a little bit if necessary with the translation. So if anyone from Brazil quiere falar, por favor, adelante.
Fernanda, did you see that we have the honor of having Dr. Jacques Nassif in the meeting? He was in Cuiabá. He was in Cuiabá with us.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Hello, doctor.
Yes.
Hi, doctor.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
Jacques Nassif. It's very
wow.
very nice to see you again.
a
What-
very good memory of Cuiabá. It was very
Thank you.
nice to be with you there.
It is an honor to have your presence here.
Okay.
Yeah, and everybody else as well. Yeah. So
Pardon me, I can't listen.
oh, um,
Hilda, can I ask a question?
sure. This year.
I'll ask in Portuguese first, and then I'll try to say it in English. Bom dia a todos, boa tarde. Fico muito feliz de ver ouvir português um pouquinho. Eu queria fazer uma pergunta ou para o Marco ou para a Fernanda, porque existe eu vou dar uma generalizada, mas existe uma resistência muito grande à psicanálise na América do Norte, especialmente no Canadá. E assim, eu tenho a sensação que um dos desafios que a gente tem no Lacan Salon, eu não sou psicanalista, mas eu já faço parte do Lacan Salon, acho que quase desde a formação. Eu sou poeta, escritora e às vezes tradutora. Mas a minha questão é sobre a questão da resistência, porque é muito até difícil de articular, porque é como se houvesse uma dificuldade da entrada da clínica na teoria aqui, porque a teoria behaviorista aqui é muito forte. Então, assim, eu fico pensando se tem algum insight, pensando na estrutura do corpo, em como, porque eu acho assim, talvez tenha a ver com a palavra teaching e transmissão, e como incorporar isso numa cultura que é muito, vamos dizer assim, não vou dizer que é fechada, mas é resistente porque também não experienciou nada de um outro jeito, como no Brasil eu acho que a psicanálise é um significante que atravessa a cultura, o que não acontece aqui. Talvez, enfim, a minha opinião. Okay, so I guess my question, what I was trying to say is that I'm not a psychoanalyst. I've been part of the Lacan Salon for pretty much since the beginning. And I guess what I asked Marco and Fernanda, or anyone who wants to try it out, is that one of the difficulties we have in North America, and I'm speaking more as someone that has experienced the medical, I mean, I've been to psychiatric institutions. Before I actually started my analysis with Hilda in particular, but there is a resistance very strong in the culture, at least that's my opinion, of Lacanian psychoanalysis, and also something to do with the culture itself that is not particularly, the signifier psychoanalysis is a little bit of an aberration, if I should exaggerate a little bit, but it's not something that, in comparison to Brazil, which psychoanalysis, it's something that if you talk to people on the street, people kind of know what that is, even if they don't get it right, but it's kind of part of the vocabulary of the culture, which doesn't happen in North America, specifically Vancouver. It's almost like something that is kind of reserved for the good, or, you know, like people that are kind of privileged in a way. And I guess my question is if there is any strategies to kind of break through a culture that resists something that they don't know it, in a way. It's a resistance out of resistance, because it's really not, they don't even know what they're resisting in a way. And I don't mean the Lacan Salon itself. I'm opening up a little bit. Sorry, this is kind of a very broad question, but it's just kind of.
¿Quiere escuchar otra pregunta o responde? Do you want to respond, or there's already one other question? So yeah, this is a very important question, I think, that the city brought.
We say something about for us in Brazil, we have many resistance to psychoanalysis also, because the cognitivism, behaviorism is growing much in Brazil. So, but I'm always impressed with the way with the situation in the United States and now in Canada also, because it seems that the resistance there in North America is something really, really very strong. And for us in Brazil, that's not our reality. We have the presence, as you told us here, we have the presence of psychoanalysis in the culture, very strong, but there are also strong resistance. So there is a kind of war with two strong sides, you know. But I have some ideas about the resistance. I've been studying the history of psychoanalysis a little in the world, and as I can understand, in the United States, the resistance was inside psychoanalysis, and that's really different. All over the world, resistance was inside psychoanalysis. And that's why Lacan made a critical teaching from the beginning to the end towards American psychoanalysis, isn't it? About a psychoanalysis that is centered in the ego. So the resistance inside the psychoanalysis, as Jacques told once, and I think he was right, makes that psychoanalysis loses his ethic principles. And so it loses the reason to exist. If psychoanalysis disappeared almost in North America, that's why, because the psychoanalytic discourse was dissolved by psychology thinking in the name of psychoanalysis. And my impression is that, I don't know in North America, but I always have the impression that if we sustain the psychoanalytic discourse, that may produce effects on the people, on the culture, you know? I think that's a problem with the analysts, not with the culture, because that's why I tell you that in Brazil we have the two sides, but we try to sustain a discourse, and there are many psychoanalysts in Brazil that make this kind of work. That's just a thinking, you know, an idea about the question that is very complicated question.
Mm-hmm. Maria Fernanda, do you want to say something? Or
no, I agree with Marco. Yes.
Okay, then there's Matheus Cucci Ferreira wrote a question on the chat, and he said, I have a question regarding authorizing oneself as a psychoanalyst. In the student's trajectory, how do the schools observe, manage, accompany the development of one's desire to become an analyst?
Hilda, você pode traduzir, porque eu não peguei exatamente, não consegui pegar.
Desiree, could you please
ele tem uma questão em relação à autorização, como se autorizar como analista. Na trajetória do estudante, como que a escola, ou como as escolas observam, direcionam, acompanham o desenvolvimento do desejo de se tornar analista. Ou seja, como é feita a autorização do analista, em resumo.
Well, in Rio, we made that new structure just thinking about that question, okay? Because we have not rarely, unfortunately, people that precipitate, how we say, precipitam the beginning of the clinic, the psychoanalytic clinic, okay? And then it's hard we cannot we cannot impedir, we cannot
Forbid.
cannot
Stop.
forbid it, okay? But in the school, we have that kind of regions that make people be included in the questions of formation or not. No, that makes a difference. That makes a difference in the quotidian, in the daily experience. That makes a very nice difference to the school as a whole, you know, because that's what we have invented. You know, I know that our structure is not the structure of the all Lacanian schools in Brazil. Okay, our structure is I would say it's half IPA, half Lacan. You know, we have created something that we must be able to follow the transmission and the formation. Okay, but there are limits to it. We do what we can. You know?
Is that are you satisfied, Mateus, with the answer? Yeah, I should have invited you to read your own question. Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Can you all hear me fine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a student at Corpo Freudiano, São Paulo. I'm in the first semester, and that is why I was curious about that question, because I know the desire to become an analyst is something that is very personal and is something that's covered in analysis and personal analysis, and it's sort of something that comes and goes in my mind, wanting to start, but at the same time understanding that there is a long path before being able to listen, to do the differential diagnosis, and to understand how to talk, how to listen, and how to treat one person that is a neurotic or psychotic. So I'm always curious about how the school, and if the school actually directly deals with this thing, and if your subject is actually discussed in class with peers and with the supervisors. So yeah, it's a good way to understand how to navigate this desire while not yielding to it, but still sort of nurturing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Juan Luis, do you want to read? Then we have another one, Mariana, and then Alan. Yeah, so Juan Luis, Mariana, and then Alan Mayer. Okay?
Yeah, should I read it in English or should Desiree translate it directly into Portuguese?
Maybe you read it first in English,
Okay.
and then Desiree kindly can translate.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I wrote, thank you, Marco Antonio and Maria Fernanda, for such engaging presentations. I actually have so many questions. A lot of them are very practical and concrete. So maybe you can leave that for another time when we are working on building our own version of a school here. For now, I would like to ask about the idea of teaching, interviews, and collegiates in the school, which you mentioned in your presentations. How have you faced the complicated problem of balancing the need for transmission in the formation on the one hand, and on the other hand, the formation of power in the figure of the teacher, she who knows and can teach, and more importantly, a member of a collegiate that can allow or deny access to a certain membership inside the school. I know the experience and a certain accumulation, to put it, I couldn't find another word, of theoretical knowledge is important, but professors, collegiates, and other dispositives of power can work against desire. It was a problem that Lacan himself faced. I think the answer that Marco Antonio gave Mateus brought a lot of light into this question. This mixture, as you call it, Marco Antonio, of Lacanian with IPA made me understand a lot of what you're doing. But still, if you can talk a little bit about this, I know there is no solution, and this is you meet every year to talk about this. I find this amazing. But if you can talk a little bit about this problem.
Eu vou ler o que está escrito aqui, Marcos, se tiver dúvida, e alguma coisa que ele falou. Ele agradece a você e a Maria Fernanda pelas apresentações. Ele diz que tem muitas questões, algumas bem práticas e concretas, mas que é melhor deixar para outro dia, quando a gente estiver trabalhando para criar a nossa escola aqui, a versão da escola aqui. Agora, ele queria perguntar sobre, ele põe entre comas, entre parênteses, sobre a ideia de ensinar, entrevista e colegiados na escola. Como é que você enfrentou a tarefa de equilibrar a necessidade de transmissão na formação e ele brinca com as palavras, e a formação que, de certa maneira, cria uma questão de poder na figura do professor e daquela pessoa que é capaz de ensinar alguma coisa. Ou seja, aí ele dá um exemplo, o membro do colegiado ter o poder de deixar entrar ou barrar a entrada de alguém na escola, por exemplo. Ou ele fala, eu sei que a experiência e uma certa acumulação, pergunta assim, não soube muito bem dizer o que isso quer dizer, mas assim, essa acumulação de saber teórico é importante, mas professor, colegiado e outros dispositivos podem criar de estruturas de poder, pode trabalhar contra o desejo. Ou seja, na verdade ele está perguntando como é que você faz, e de certa maneira ele diz que a sua resposta ao Mateus deu um pouco de luz para ele, como é que você equilibra para não criar, vamos dizer assim, estruturas de poder, alguém que tem o poder de barrar alguém a entrar ou sair de uma escola. Então, como que faz esse equilíbrio, enfim, que não barre o desejo, mas que permita a transmissão da psicanálise? Eu acho que foi isso, né? I think that's okay, right?
Yeah.
That was wonderful, Desiree.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Obrigado. Eu vou falar um pouco. Fernanda, você quer falar também? Primeiro, não.
She cannot hear. She has problems with the internet. She's texting in the chat that she cannot hear properly. So I guess it falls on you or any other person who wants to answer from the audience that have experience with the school as well.
The first thing I should say is that we believe that these questions, they cannot be eliminated at all, okay? So what we can do is to deal analytically with them, okay? First. Second, I should remember that Lacan first, in the proposition of 9 October, he says about le psychanalyste ne s'autorise que de lui-même. The psychoanalyst, he authorized himself based only in himself. But 4 years later, or 7 years later, I don't remember, he included 3 other words in this phrase. And he said, l'analyste ne s'autorise que de lui-même et quelques d'autres. And for some other people, okay? So Lacan, he clearly, he understood that he should include the recognition of the school in this process. It could not be let absolutely isolated to the analyst information. That's how I understand, okay? But another thing I should say is that I believe that each region has its own problem. Here in Rio, we have our specific problems, okay? Rio de Janeiro is a psychoanalytic city, I can say, okay? We have, I don't know, 30 societies of psychoanalysis, maybe, many societies, okay? And as I told you before, there are many young people that want to go into formation and begin to have clinics, analytic clinic. There are many institutes of psychology where the analysts teach, okay? And then the young people come to the institutions of psychoanalysis to continue their study of psychoanalysis. So one problem we have here is the kind of selection of a great number of people, if you follow me, okay? Yeah. We cannot receive everybody that looks for formation and study. Of course, any people can study psychoanalysis, but the formation, we must, formation and the processes of formation, it must be regulated by some points that we believe that are important, okay? But I didn't explain because there are so many things to explain, isn't it? But there is one point that is important. When we nominate here, nominated by the collegiate, as you was pointing, isn't it, Juan Luis? The nomination, it's a recognition of the, we are not nominating someone and recognizing him as an analyst that is formed. The formation is permanent. Everybody is in permanent formation, okay? But as an analyst, member of the school, we can nominate this one as someone that the school recognizes that it has been, it has developed in the school a work that we consider a good work, a work that makes links, transference links in the school. So it's an analytic work. That's all, okay? There's a link.
There is no nomination of analyst of the school. There is only analyst member of the school.
That's it. That's
okay.
It.
Interesting.
Because
very interesting. Yeah.
That's the point. You touched the point. We don't want to nominate analysts of the school because that has to do with the past. The past.
Yes.
No. And that's a very enigmatic question. We don't want to go into the question, okay? But an analyst that is member of the school, it makes part of the work. He's recognized as someone that contributes a lot, so we don't have no problem to nominate him, okay?
Wonderful.
What about
Juan Luis, can we give a space
yes.
for the other
yes,
questions, and then we come back to you?
Yes,
thank
yes,
you.
Yes.
Just wanted to piggy right on what Marco Antonio was saying with regards to the different sort of functions of the analyst member of the school, that the basic formation people that are in basic formation, they also contribute to the education in the permanent permanent formation. So it's also, it's not like excluded, you cannot teach, right? Like everybody can teach something of their experience, in what I understood, correct? Yeah. Mariana and then Alan. Mariana, can you read your comment, please, about Australia and psychoanalysis, the culture? Are you around? Yeah. Mariana, no? Okay. It's pretty much a comment. She says, I think we still have resistance in Brazil, but it's not like in Australia, for example. I think Australia is like Canada. I have a friend studying psychology in Australia, and there they don't even hear a word about Freud in the university. I studied in Brazil, and here we studied psychoanalysis as a subject for a full semester. I think the culture is very different. It's like if psychoanalysis hadn't gotten here, or if it arrived, it didn't gain enough space. It's a little bit like here, there's a lot of Lacan and Freud in the more Lacan, I would say, in different universities, right? Literature, I don't know, like political science, I don't know, like I'm escaping geography, etc., but not in psychology. So it's a problem of denying the unconscious in a way, no? Anyone wants to say something else, or we move with Alan? Okay, Alan, please. Bem-vindo.
Well, good morning and pleasure to meet you. I'm from São Paulo, of Corpo Freudiano, and I am in an interesting situation with what Marco just mentioned, that we are between IPA and IPA and Lacanian training, because I'm a member of the IPA, and what I always had as an objection against the São Paulo society, to which I had a lot of quarrels about, is exactly it's the power structure of the society, very vertical, no? So the group of the didactic analysts, they had the greatest power for a long, long time in the society. And they would choose who would become a training analyst, who would become a member, and so forth. There's been a lot of change in the society, but the structure continues the same. And I found it very difficult to fight this structure. And so I joined with Mario, who is a professor at Unicamp. He's also a psychiatrist and a psychoanalyst trained in France. So we began Corpo Freudiano, and Corpo Freudiano has this characteristic. It's much more horizontal than vertical. Power questions do occur always between where human societies exist. Some power sometimes is legitimate, let's say. It's when you recognize the other as having more knowledge or more capacity than yourself, and you learn from him. So what is unacceptable is when you have imposing ideas that you have to do things like this or like that. And in analysis, this doesn't work. You have to have a certain degree of liberty. When you are together with your patient, you must be able to have a minimum conviction of the action you take at every damn moment, because there is no possibility to have, let's say, a book which tells you in such a situation do this, or such a situation do that. You have to be free to create. And this, the group has maintained this attitude, and this is absolutely fantastic in the sense of opening up. Second thing I wanted to say was Desiree saying that it's very difficult to establish psychoanalysis or Lacanian psychoanalysis in Canada. And Vancouver, perhaps, I believe you are from Vancouver, no?
So, we are located in Vancouver, yeah.
And Vancouver, a nice city, a beautiful city, and but very conservative, I would say, extremely conservative. So to break through the resistance of Vancouverers, I would say, you have to go more to the media. Here in Brazil, we have many analysts that speak and are on YouTube. Very good speeches, very good. You can watch some of them. It'll be very interesting to see. And there was a film done on the Lacanian analyst, Betty Miller. She did a film with an American director. Adieu, Lacan. No? Goodbye, Lacan. It's a film about her analysis, filmed in all the details of the main points of the analysis. That's good to be shown to the people, because then they can have a more concrete experience and be more interested in psychoanalysis. And then from then on, they might look for other sorts of training. That's just a suggestion I'm giving. Anyhow, it's worthwhile to use the media in an intelligent way and not in a banal way. It's very important. Okay, that's my two little contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Does anyone want to respond?
Can I make a comment, though?
Mm-hmm.
Alan, obrigado pela resposta. I have to make a little comment, though. I was born in Juiz de Fora, so I came a long ways to Vancouver for those. And I have to say, though, even though I'm the one that made that comment, because I do think there is a very strong resistance. I came to Canada and I'm still doing my analysis in English with someone that is not from Brazil. So in a way, I found psychoanalysis because I needed. And I still do my analysis in English with Hilda, which is like kind of to show that in a way, when there is demand, the analyst appears somehow. But I can only speak for my own personal experience, but it's kind of interesting how, in a way, I came to Canada to do analysis when I could have done in Brazil, but that's what happened. So Vancouver does have the potential, but I think the fear of the unknown, at least that's my take, is huge. So it's conservative that way because it kind of does baby steps. Yeah. Anyway.
However, no, thank you, Desiree. However, I wanted to say something, Alan, to your comment. I mean, I have been here for 23 years. I started to practice pretty much 4 years after I arrived. And the Lacan Salon has contributed a great deal to build some psychoanalytic discourse. The problem is that it hasn't been materialized yet in the kind of formation of analysis. However, the discourse of psychoanalysis in the university, in the community, in the artistic communities have created a demand for analysts, right? Like as I mentioned at the beginning of the introduction, it's a little bit overwhelming to receive so many demands for specific to Lacanian psychoanalysis, because people start to realize that it's a different way of approaching human suffering. So I would say, yeah, it's and I kind of find very humorous your kind of comment about certain conservatism, no, like certain puritanism, because it's the kind of the tradition, no, the kind of Protestant, white, etc. But at the same time, there's so many people coming from different cultures. It's so multicultural that bring their cultures, right? Like with also the culture itself here in Canada. It kind of makes a mix of something that can create things. There are a lot of things to do, and that's the beauty of these young cities, right? Like there's everything to be done, and that's something that we are kind of discovering, right? It takes a while, but it works. Yeah. Anyone? I think anyone wanted to say anything more? Juan Luis, you wanted to continue the kind of the respond to Marco that you wanted to, or not?
No, I think, as I said in my comment, I have a lot of questions, very practical and very specific, that will be important if and when we are working on actually developing our own version. I prefer to address what Alan and you just said, Hilda, because I do think in certain ways, Vancouver can be very, very conservative, but in other ways, it isn't. In other ways, it is a very open, very chaotic city, very welcoming also in certain ways. And I agree with you, Hilda. There is a sort of vertigo in the way that there is nothing to respond to that demand of which you speak, Hilda. There are. If Rio de Janeiro is an analytical city, and I think Mexico City, from where I come from, can also be characterized as a city where psychoanalysis have a very, very strong presence.
Yeah.
Vancouver is not. It's definitely not. Psychoanalysis is not taught in university for psychologists. Hospitals have no relation to psychoanalytical discourse, and so on, and so on. So there is a sort of vertigo of emptiness, which is also the vertigo of possibility. There is so much to be done here, which is also it's a lot of work, but it's also very, very exciting. So I think that's why this connection with Corpo Freudiano is so exciting. And I agree with what Marco Antonio said about psychoanalysis being a thing that occurs in each city in a slightly different way, so that each city has to come up with their non-solutions to these magnificent problems.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's something about the singularity of the region, the singularity of the space, the singularity of the culture. And I just, there are one question, but I just wanted to add also to what Juan Luis is saying. Yeah, the Vancouver is also a very progressive city, right? Like where the law actually works a little bit better than in some kind of instances. I'm also from Mexico, so yeah, there are wonderful things, and the nature. You have to come. We have to organize at some point an event here so you can come, and we can show you the beautiful nature that the guardians of this land. Yeah, I mentioned the nations that were here before the settlers arrived, right? But anyways, that could be for another time. Let's go with Lee. Lee, can you read your comment, please? Lee Tennant. Lily, oui. Oh yes, she's here.
Je voulais dire peu de choses parce que j'ai pas tout suivi pour mon anglais très très faible, mais une remarque et peut-être une question en ouverture de cette table ronde qui va durer 2 mois.
Can I translate?
Please,
Est-ce que je peux traduire?
Oui.
Merci. He says he couldn't follow everything because his English is not that strong, but he would like to make a small remark at the beginning of these round tables that will occur during the coming months. Vas-y, Paolo.
Oui, donc j'ai beaucoup apprécié l'intervention de Marco Antonio qui nous fait un peu l'organigramme d'une école qui fonctionne, qui est très articulée, très complexe, parce que aussi Rio de Janeiro est une grande école importante.
He wants to thank Marco Antonio for presenting this schema of a very big, very complicated, very complex school.
Oui.
It's a very important, very large school that works, that functions.
Il y a d'autres réalités qui sont mineures, mais complexes aussi, et qui demandent peut-être un autre type d'organisation. Mais ça, c'est une parenthèse, ce que j'ai dit.
There are other realities that perhaps require other kinds of solutions, specific solutions to their problems. But this is.
Et on en parlera quand, pour ce qui concerne Paris, on en parlera quand je vais intervenir le 15 juin.
Regarding Paris, Paolo will talk to us about the reality of the school in Paris when it's his turn to speak.
Mais la question qui est surgie ici par Désiré Jung, qui me paraît fondamentale, c'est comment faire quand dans un pays, que ça peut être le Canada, mais ça peut être aussi d'autre côté la France ou l'Italie, quand dans des pays, dans certains pays, la psychanalyse ne traverse plus la culture. Comment faire?
But the question he wants to open as a parenthesis now is, what can we do in certain countries like Canada, maybe, but also France or Italy, where psychoanalysis doesn't traverse culture anymore? What is there to be done?
En réalité, cette question, on cache une autre encore plus importante.
Maybe this question hides another one that it's even more important.
C'est-à-dire l'envers, comment faire quand la culture ne traverse plus la psychanalyse?
Which is the reverse of this question is, what do we do when culture doesn't go through psychoanalysis anymore?
Et c'est cet organigramme-là que je pense important réfléchir, c'est-à-dire comment invertir cette tendance et faire en sorte que la culture, les savoirs rentrent dans la psychanalyse, pas pour la transformer, je ne sais pas comment, mais pour la adapter à la réalité d'un monde qui veut avancer, qui ne veut pas rester figé dans les dogmes.
That's why he believes this presentation by Marco Antonio was so important, because it can show that question, what to do to help a culture modify psychoanalysis in a way that is still relevant and it's not fixed in the past, in dogma, it's not fixed, but it changes and adapts to reality.
J'ai fait seulement un exemple qui concerne Paris. Et si les psychanalystes, ceux qui vont devenir psychanalystes sont seulement des psychologues, c'est très bien qu'ils sont des psychologues. Ce qui manquerait dans cette traversée de la culture à la psychanalyse, c'est tous les autres savoirs. C'est-à-dire qu'il faut bien qu'il y ait des physiciens, des mathématiciens, des philosophes qui viennent et qui traversent la psychanalyse avec leurs instruments. Et ça va tout changer.
He proposes a little example from Paris where he says, it's okay, it's good that only psychologists can become psychoanalysts, okay, but then there is a lack of other knowledges such as physics, mathematics, lawyers, and so on, that must be present in order to help psychoanalysis be relevant in our current culture.
Et pour ça, il faut penser à un accueil de ces nouveaux personnes, de ces nouveaux savoirs, un accueil qui a besoin aussi d'un autre organigramme.
And for that, we must think of a welcoming, of a hospitality of these other people, these other knowledges that requires another kind of organic. What's the word for organigramma, Hilda, in English?
Voilà, donc ma question est implicite. Qu'est-ce qu'on pense, Marc-Antonio? Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? C'est terminé mon intervention.
Merci beaucoup. So he asks, what does Marc-Antonio think? What the rest of us think about that problem?
Thank you, Paolo. Thank you, Juan Luis. Marco, do you want to respond? And then we have Lee, and then we have Ana Lucia Carvalho, querida. Marco, do you want to respond?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am absolutely agree with Paolo. when we read the question of lay analysis of Freud, this is a text of Freud about analytic formation, indeed. And when we read this text, we see that Freud insists about that connection of psychoanalysis with many knowledges. This in the quadro, inside the formation of the analyst, okay? And but I would say something about the question of there is no psychoanalysis in many places, even in Vancouver and many other places. Even in Europe, there are countries where psychoanalysis doesn't exist with some strong presence, isn't it? But when we think that Freud was absolutely lonely, he was the one who began that discourse. The work of Freud sustains our presence here today. Okay? So I always think that if we find ways of transmitting, of sustaining analytic discourse, it will exist in any place. It's not a matter of number of people, because the number may be very problematic also, very fake, isn't it? But the existence of psychoanalysis. And for instance, Lacan Salon exists 16 years, isn't it? Yeah. So there is an existence of psychoanalysis in Vancouver. Okay? And the question is how to make it desabrochar mais ainda, né? Exist more and more, mais plenamente, in a plenty way.
He's saying the question to how to flourish it broadly.
How to flourish that, yeah. Thank
How
you,
to make it grow.
Lee, your question? And then Ana Lucia. Lee.
Okay. Marco just said something about the transference, but at this point, I think it's okay. I'll just say, thanks for everyone for the work you're doing. And I think that as someone who is sort of born in Vancouver and raised in this sort of state of the current master's or university discourse and the mental health climate, I just appreciate the work that has been done in other places of the world that is now, here, right? And I'm kind of affected that, and I'm excited by the school, the possibilities of the school, and my internet is unstable. So I think instead of asking that question, I'll just say thanks. Thanks for everyone's work, and I'm excited to see this happen.
Thank you, Lee. Desiree, do you want to translate?
Marco, ela ia fazer uma pergunta, mas eu vou falar qual que era a pergunta, mesmo assim, apesar dela não ter falado a pergunta. Ela tinha uma pergunta em relação ao vetor da transferência, mas ela falou, mas agora talvez seja melhor não falar sobre isso, mas eu acho que era isso que ela queria saber. Você falasse mais da questão do vetor de transferência na clínica da supervisão. E ela disse que ela nasceu em Vancouver, uma pessoa que foi criada aqui, dentro desse sistema do discurso do mestre, de universidade que dá mestrado e tal, mas que ela está muito feliz com a possibilidade dessa escola e agradece a todos. É isso.
Obrigada.
Eu posso falar alguma coisa ou não? Eu posso falar não?
If you want to answer a little bit more about the vector, and then I would say Ana Lucia would be the last question for this round.
Well, the vector of transference is the possibility of having some access to the unconscious. So it must be preserved, isn't it? We must preserve this vector in all its manifestations. That's why we think that it's positive made it this way. But I would like to say a little more something about the question, the suggestion of Paulo about what we can do. And the question of Desiree, what we can do to improve the existence of psychoanalysis in Canada or elsewhere. I think that there is a transference with Lacan, the culture. I see many publications of Lacan's orientated books and works, etc. Okay? And I suppose, I cannot be sure because I'm not there, I couldn't say this definitely, but I suppose that Lacan remains in a very intellectualized sector of the society, very high
theory.
Intellectuals and academic works, etc. And I think that if analysts make a very objective project of teaching the contributions of Lacan that are enormous and fabulous, with linking with Freud, I mean, teaching with some clear way, not very enigmatic and complex ways, we can make people come to psychoanalysis. I see this in Rio also. Here in Rio, we have some speeches of analysts that are very enigmatic and complex. We don't understand what they're talking about. We can understand what's the object of the discourse, okay? But if we talk about Lacan, with the culture, as Paulo said, films and the literary works, and the clinic, even the clinic, of course, I think that it's a good way to try to do a project of
dissemination.
Yeah, and thinking, who is our interlocutor? That's the question. We cannot talk the same way to everybody.
No.
Okay? We cannot talk. And Fernanda talked about the interlocutors, isn't it? We cannot talk the same discourse to everybody. I give lessons in the university with young people, psychologists forming psychology. I can't talk with them as I talk in Corpo Freudiano when I talk about Lacan. I must make a very complex work, but it's very pleasure also to try to translate the complexity of theory of Freud, because Freud is also very complex, finally, not only Lacan complex. To translate this into something that people can hear and be illuminated by something, because we were illuminated in a moment also by something that we heard, that we read. Everyone can be illuminated by psychoanalysis. That's my point of view.
Good, good, Marco. Ana Lucia Carvalho. Maria Fernanda. Let's, yeah.
Let me say something. I'm very, very sad because I can't listen. Everything was broke and I'm nervous, but I think I heard just some words. And I think we have to insist, like Freud, we have to insist all the time, because if we leave psychoanalysis, what will happen with us? I don't know what
Maria Fernanda.
you talk all the time.
Sinto muito, mas su conexión
Oi.
no boa.
But in my opinion, sim, I don't know.
Yeah, my dear, we cannot
I
hear
will
you. Yeah, but why you don't write
Maybe-
something in the chat
I-
and then we read it? What about that? You write something in the chat and we read it. Yeah, we really want to hear from you, but it's very choppy. It's very cut.
Pode
Yeah.
escrever em português, eu traduzo, ô Maria Fernanda. Escreve em português mesmo, eu traduzo rapidamente.
Perfeito. In the meantime, let's go with Ana Lucia Carvalho while Maria Fernanda writes her comment. Bem-vinda, Ana Lúcia, querida.
Olá, olá. Eu vou falar em português porque não sou boa no inglês. Eu leio inglês, mas não tenho prática para falar, não é? Então, queria lhe agradecer ao Lacan Salon e a você, Hilda, e a todos que estão aqui. É uma oportunidade para que a gente possa fazer uma interlocução sobre o corpo freudiano. É muito, muito importante essa reunião. Então, eu pedi para falar, levantei a mão, porque a fala de Paulo me tocou, não é? Quando ele fala que a cultura precisa atravessar a psicanálise. Então, aí, quando ele fala nisso...
Deixa eu falar, só um pouquinho, deixa eu só falar. Sorry. Desculpa, Ana, te cortar, mas é só porque senão eu não consigo acompanhar. So she wants to thank everyone, Lacan Salon, the opportunity of being here, and this conversation with the Lacan Salon. And she says she asked to speak because the what Paolo has said has really touched her in terms of how psychoanalysis has to traverse culture. Pode seguir, Ana.
Então, a cultura atravessa, né? Precisa atravessar a psicanálise precisa ser atravessada por essa cultura, né? E isso é importante porque quando você convidou Marco Antônio, Fernanda Bumlai, do Cuiabá, Marco Antônio do Rio, que é o fundador, né, do Corpo Freudiano, Escola de Psicanálise, Fernanda de Cuiabá, a minha pessoa, né, sou de João Pessoa, não é, do Nordeste do Brasil, depois Denise do Rio, depois Sônia do Rio também, Laéria de Fortaleza.
Peraí, deixa eu... So she continues saying that how it's important that psychoanalysis is traversed by culture. And when Hilda invited Marco Antonio, who is the founder of Corpo Freudiano, and also from Rio de Janeiro, Fernanda Bumlai de Cuiabá, Fernanda Bumlai from Cuiabá, Ana Lúcia, who is she from João Pessoa, who is a city on the northeast of Brazil. And then she cited the other people, Denise Maurano from Rio, Laéria from São Paulo, right?
São Paulo.
Okay.
Sim.
Pode seguir.
Paulo de Paris, né?
Paulo from Paris, yes.
Paulo de Paris. Então, isso já contempla o atravessamento da cultura na psicanálise em cada região dessa, não é? Porque aqui em João Pessoa, por exemplo, a gente tem nossas particularidades regionais, culturais. Em termos, se tiver muito longo, você fala desse...
Não, eu vou fazer esse pedaço. Isso é muito importante, eu não posso perder. She continues and says that the fact that this invitation or this conversation includes several sections or areas from Brazil, and when she's talking about herself, and she's from the section or chain from João Pessoa, which is in the northeast of Brazil, and that particular section in a way, this movement already contemplates this traversal of culture or psychoanalysis within culture, because, for example, João Pessoa has their own particularities, their own singularities, which are regional, cultural. In other words, João Pessoa has its own singularity compared to other sections of Brazil. That's kind of, é isso mesmo, né?
Sim, sim. Então, mas o que nos marca como corpo freudiano, e aí eu estou falando do lugar do corpo freudiano João Pessoa, que quando se instituiu, são os princípios do corpo freudiano. Os princípios que todos nós seguimos, os mesmos princípios, ligados à obra freudiana e ao ensino de Lacan.
She says that even though what marks the Corpo Freud, there is the singularities of this particular region, but what sustains that mark is the principles that, and that this particular space is the principles that Corpo Freudiano contains or brings, which constitutes in the work of Sigmund Freud and the teachings of Lacan.
Sim, e encerrando aqui, parando aqui minhas palavras, também seguimos toda uma lógica de pensamento e de percurso psicanalítico de Alain Didier Veil, quando ele chama a instituição de insistituição. Então, eu acho que é esse o nosso trabalho. Insistituir cada corpo freudiano. Nós fazemos isso em João Pessoa. Insistimos, instituímos. Era isso que eu queria falar. Obrigada.
She says she wants to end her talk reminding us that one of the things that they follow in João Pessoa is a logic of thinking or thought, a trajectory that comes from, if I understood well, from the words of Alain Didier Veil. I don't know how to say that in English. I think that's Veil. Mm-hmm. That he has like a saying that we have to I don't know how to translate that one.
Institutionalize. Institutionalize. Yeah. Like insist and institution.
Yeah, which is like a combination. It's a combination of something that needs to be insisted within the institution. Let's put it that way. But he made it into one word. In other words, those two forces have to work together.
Muito obrigada. Muito obrigada. Thank you very much. I think it's exactly what Maria Fernanda was wanting to say, that she wanted to say that I think we must insist like Freud. And then we have a comment by Jacques Nassif. Would you want to read it?
Okay, I was just having to leave, and it's why I wrote my comment. I am sorry, but I was very interested by this exchange. Just says that the future of psychoanalysis depends on our capacity of founding a third moment after Freud and Lacan, in which our practice would arrive to distinguish the psychoanalysis from the psychotherapy of a psychopathology, offering others tools who are all related with a certain form of speaking without any aim. That's
Beautiful,
I
beautiful.
am
Very concise and very clear. Thank you for that comment. Well, I think we had a wonderful kind of session. We have a wonderful day. Thank you so much to each of you that attended. Thank you so much, Maria Fernanda Bumlai, Marco Antonio Coutinho, all the friends from the Lacan Salon that they also mentioned some, they are very thankful. Carrie Pollock and Mel Maxon, they are kind of thanking everyone. This is very exciting. Please stay tuned and come and join us on May 18. We're going to have Ana Lucia Carvalho and Denise Maurano, and it's going to be so much fun. You don't want to miss it. Thank you so much. Let's clap for the speakers. Thank you so much. And à la prochaine.
Hilda.
Bye, queridos.
Obrigado. Muito obrigado.
Obrigada, Hilda.
Obrigada, obrigada, Cá também.
Adieu.
Adieu.
Thank you very much.
Gracias. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao,
Thank
ciao.
you.